Okay, Hasbro Quarterly Reports came out today, and they beat street expectations. They didn't just beat it; they demolished it in no small way. You're going to see videos out by the end of the day going how it's over, Hasbro's killed it, Dungeons and Dragons is finished, blah blah blah. There's nothing in the quarterly report that even shows that that is possible. There will be people who try to twist it, but they don't. Hasbro is a funny company in a lot of ways, but they did just demolish their street expectations. And let's take a quick look at just what's going on with their stock today. And stock market's been all over the place, but so it's a little bit tricky to say, oh, this day matters. But when the quarterly report comes out and your stock is up 14%, that's a good day. You've done some good things. So they've announced their quarterly report earnings per share of $1.04, beating street expectations by 54%. That's not just a beating. That is like an old school Jackie Chan beat you with a chair kind of beating. Now let's take a look at what that means. Some people will say, "Oh, well, that doesn't mean anything for Dungeons and Dragons." So let's do a. Here's their statement. Um, First quarter 2025 segment details. This is the first quarter when the new books were available and are out. Now, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast don't break Dungeons and Dragons out enough for you to really tell for sure whether or not Dungeons and Dragons is driving up or driving down or driving sideways. They just don't give you that kind of granularity. But the Wizards of the Coast and Digital Gaming segment, which is one division of Hasbro, revenue increased by 46% behind strong growth in Magic the Gathering, ongoing momentum in digital and licensed gaming, and Dungeons and Dragons. Ongoing momentum in, that means doing good things, right? Excellent stuff going on. Magic the Gathering revenue increased by 45% with growth in tabletop and arena. Monopoly Go contributed 39 million. Operating profit increased 87%, and operating margin was 49.8, up 11 points due to business mix. Now let's go look for more stuff that has dragons in it. Its franchise first approach, Hasbro unlocks value from both new and legacy IP, including Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, Monopoly, Hasbro games, Nerf, all kinds of stuff. So Dungeons and Dragons is getting mentioned in a positive way in the quarterly report. If you're a company the size of Hasbro, you don't put things in here and say good things unless good things are happening. Nobody can tell you exactly what's going on there, but it is going up. Hasbro total gaming includes all gaming revenue, most notably Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, and Hasbro Gaming. So they're mentioning it again prominently here when they're looking at revenue on the gaming side. So Hasbro total game, they broke Magic the Gathering out, right? But Hasbro total gaming is up as well. So Magic the Gathering is big enough it gets its own slice. This tells you two things. Number one, Magic the Gathering is a whole lot bigger than Dungeons and Dragons, or you would break them both out. But because D&D is smaller, they don't. So yes, Magic the Gathering is substantially larger than Dungeons and Dragons. But mentioning it in a positive light does not mean Dungeons and Dragons is about to die. It doesn't mean they killed it. Now, it's the same thing. Now let's go look at the details of this. So again, first quarter highlights. If you're the CEO, CFO, anybody else putting this together, you put the good stuff up front unless it's catastrophically bad, and then you warn people of good things. But there's nothing in here that's catastrophically bad. So page one, Wizards segment increased 46% with growth in Magic the Gathering, Dungeons, all that kind of stuff, right? So the same thing we just read, right there in line 2, right behind total revenues increased 17%, behind momentum in Wizards and stronger than expected consumer products, right? So net revenue up 17%, operating profit up 47, net earnings up $40 million. This is stuff that investors look at and go, why wasn't I in this 3 weeks ago? Because, oh my God, this was just amazing. The future of the company is strong. Now, Hasbro Inc. first quarter performance, Wizards of the Coast and Digital Gaming, $462 million in that quarter. Operating profit, $230 million. Margin, 49.8, plus 87%. Now, Consumer products, they didn't do as well. They're actually losing money over there. Entertainment, they're losing money. Corporate, no. So the shining star of Hasbro is Wizards of the Coast, and more specifically, Magic the Gathering. But there's no way to tell the absolute value of Dungeons and Dragons other than smaller than Wizards. So, but all this does line up and tell you that the company is not destroying it. They're not out to wreck the hobby. It's growing, and the company is growing as a result of all these things. Or D&D would not be getting called out at this level. They would leave it off of there in favor of something else that's doing better. If it was losing money, there would be another name right there. Okay. Uh, so yeah, when you see all these other videos of people going, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible," it's that's not what these quarterly reports are telling you. What these quarterly reports are telling you is Wizards of the Coast revenue drivers, Wizards tabletop TTRPG, tabletop RPGs, 37%, right? So that's a big revenue driver. So Wizards Digital is smaller, digital licensing is smaller, so that's a 46% increase driven by Wizards tabletop, as in a TTRPG. 37%. That's a huge increase. That's massive. That's one third. Think of it another way. Wizards of the Coast operating margin performance, volume and mix, so they're up. They're showing signs of, oh my gosh, real life, right? So when you see these other reports out there or these other videos coming out going, oh, that's it, Wizards has destroyed it, it's over. The numbers don't agree. The numbers say this thing is a rocket ship, and Wizard and Hasbro is doing good stuff. Now, I am not a licensed fiduciary. Okay? I am not one you should look at and go, oh, I'm going to go buy the stock. And honestly, on a day when it's up now 15%, you're too late. There will be a slight dip in a day or so because of day when it's gone up 15%. People who own stock in it already are going to take some profit because the stock has been down at like 49 in the last week or so because the stock market's been all over the map. So somebody's going to come along and sell a bunch of shares, and in a day or so, it's going to go down. But the fact that it's at 60 and rising today, still, it's now 15% up, says this quarterly report looked at by investors is something that they look at and go, that's a company that actually has figured out what their customer figure out how to do. If you looked at their previous quarterly reports, they have this entire plan to actually massively expand the number of gamers. And right now, it seems to be led by Wizards of the Coast and their tabletop division, which includes Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, and all the other Wizard stuff that you're familiar with. So don't count these guys out. They have not destroyed the hobby. They are not out to kill it. You may not like the new version, but the old versions are still out there. So Drive Through RPG, if you've got them, play them, enjoy them. If you like first edition, play it. Second edition, third edition, I'm going to skip fourth. Fifth edition, whatever, enjoy yourself. That's all I'm saying. This game is a rocket ship. Hasbro is not going to be stopped. Wizards of the Coast is going to go to the moon. I think they've actually got a fair amount of momentum. I think they're going to keep going. I think Magic the Gathering is still the big kid in the room. Dungeons and Dragons maybe could catch up, but at this point in time, I don't see anything that says, "Oh my gosh, we're coming to a screeching halt." So look at the numbers yourself. But when you see the videos saying that's it, it's over, and declaring an end to RPGs and the stops of the rotation of the earth, don't believe it. The numbers are good. The numbers are good enough that I was surprised. So everybody have a great day. I will talk to you soon.